which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the options of mankind requires that they should declare that cause which impelled them to the separation. And it goes on. So one thing I'm suggesting today is that we write our own Declaration of Independence from all the trivia that's going on in our life. This has been one of the most busy Junes I've had since I retired. And so I turned to an old friend that I don't know personally, but I know him because I've read his stuff a lot, Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Effective People. And number 3 is first things first. Another way of saying that is do the big things first, and the small things second and third and fourth and fifth. It's wonderful, wonderful advice. And during this month when I had so much to do, I kept saying to myself, okay, what's the biggest thing to do today? And what's the biggest thing to do now? And the reason is I find myself periodically procrastinating a little bit by doing trivia when the big thing I should be concentrating on is up there. And when I get conscious that I'm doing that, I say to myself, all right, George, take a look at the big thing and identify why it is that you don't want to do that right now. And once I do that, then I find out, well, it's either going to be controversial and I don't want to go there, it's either going to make me think, which I don't do as well as I used to. It's going to mean that I have to use my memory, which I barely have anymore. You know? And it just seems like an overwhelming task. And so I sharpen a pencil, you know, and take the trash out of it. You know how it goes. Being alive on earth is a supreme gift. And we are gifted with these incredible bodies that are smart. And, you know, here we are, we're human beings, we're pretty smart collectively. And now we're creating machines that are smarter than us in certain ways. Some people are afraid of them, saying that they're going to become like HAL. Remember that? The old movie? They finally disconnected him, and they got back to humanity. I'm not worried about it myself, because if it gets that far along down the line, I don't want to be here anymore, so that's one reason. But another is that I just love technology and all the improvements. Many years ago, Lynn and I went, Lynn is my wife, for those of you who are new. We went to the Greater Self Conference that was put on by the Noetic Society in Washington, D.C. And they had a bunch of geniuses who came through and gave little talks. And one was a mathematician. And he had memorized the 2,000 numbers in pi after the dot. And he had them on a sheet of paper, and he passed out to everybody. There's a couple thousand of us. And so he said, anybody call out any 4, and I'll tell you what's before and afterwards. And so after about the 3rd time, we're all moaning and groaning and going, and he says, you could do that? And we said, no, we couldn't do that. And he went on to explain how he did it. He said, I've always loved numbers, and I have given every number a name. And so when I see 4, 6, 7, and 1, I make up a little story. So for the whole 2,000, he made up a little story. So when he said, you know, Red Riding Hood went into the forest, you know, Sleeping Beauty, blah, 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 blah. In other words, that's how he did it. And he thought that we could all do it. Now, what his job was, he worked for NASA, estimating what the numbers were going to be for some of the projects. The reason is the computers were so slow in those days, it might take 3 or 4 days for them to find the real number, but he wanted to give them the ballpark number. And he was always right. Today we have computers that we don't need a guy like that. We have computers that are so fast that before you turn them on, they've already answered the question. So the purpose of this sermon and my remarks is to encourage you to take another look at your to-do list and your bucket list and see if they need to be reprioritized. It's a great thing to do. It's a big gift to give yourself. So that is the end of my sermon, and I hope it hit you right between the eyes and in the heart and everywhere in your whole being, and that it will help improve your life and the life of others. Now, one final thing. In the last song that we just heard, it said, "You are a unique person. You can do stuff that nobody else can do." You remember those words? For instance, maybe you need to write a letter. I don't even know the person. I don't know the circumstance. I couldn't possibly write your letter. Maybe you need to make a phone call. How would I know who to call or what to say? "Hello, Joe. I'm calling for XYZ. I don't know you. I've never heard of you. But she or he wants to apologize for what he said 6 months ago. Hope it works. Bye-bye." That's not going to work. You doing it, not me, and nobody else. Amen.